I used to come here in the 80s, and there was no, so many less trees here. And I come here and sunbathe here, and skinny dip in the pond with the reservoir. But I came back in 2000, some 20 years later, and this cedar tree, which was here, had grown quite a bit. It was all covered with briars, green briars, and so was this big pine tree. But some 20 years ago, I trimmed all them off. And then over the years, I moved up this bank here, all the way up to the point. Now you can see where I was just standing, what I would call Sunset Rock. And between here and there was just unwalkable, so choked with green briars and stuff. And here you kind of get into this little cedar grove by the pond here. And again, when I came back from Colorado, these trees were here and covered in green briar to the point where they were bending down and going to eventually die. Again, we're kind of looking back at Sunset Rock, kind of looking through that little cedar grove. And down here, this rock below me, you can kind of see some rigging from an old quarry that's right to my left. This rock was invisible, totally covered in green briar. And down here is what I call Sunset Point. And that rock is a beautiful place to sit and put your feet in the water. Nice and deep, beautiful place. And to the left is this the quarry, been filled back in. Now that I've cleared all the brush and limbed all these trees over the years, you can kind of see the whole quarry. And up through these cedars. Again, this whole hill was inaccessible when I started hanging out here again 20 years ago. So again, I'm looking back towards what we call Sunset Rock, and I'm on Sunset Point, which is just, like I said, a beautiful place to kind of sit down, get your feet in the water. Just beautiful. So behind me is that quarry that I was talking about. Across the way is a dock that the state has here for the state park. You kind of see the reservoir. I'm going to kind of turn into the sun. You probably won't be able to see much. But that's back towards the dam. Where's over there? Come on. Keep going, keep going. Oh, there we go. That feel good? Yeah? You a good girl? With your pretty blonde hair? Yeah, I know. Again, we're looking back towards Sunset Rock. I'm standing close to Sunset Point. I'm turning towards the quarry, which is below me right here. And if you look back this way towards the dam, kind of see an area that I started working on. It was really dense. Someday I'll finish it. So again, we're looking back towards it, Sunset Rock. And in the way in the background, you could see some concrete. That's from an old steam engine. The trail is there. Didn't exist 20 years ago. And down here's another quarry. Again, no one really knew it was there. You can kind of see some of the Oriental bittersweet that I cut years ago. It's still kind of hanging on that tree. And you come back around, you see the trail. Now this trail I built, I don't know, about 6 years ago now. Took a couple years to build. And that runs back to the parking lot. We're looking back towards Sunset Rock again. And this trail here, I cut way back in 2000, just down through the briars. So I could come down here and sit in the shade while my dog swam in the water and no one came down here. It was just a little tiny spot. And eventually I've come through and limbed all the trees, and looking back this way here was nothing but a wall of green briars way up in the trees. If you look, you can probably see some of them still up in there. They still haven't quite rotted. But if you look back through this forest, you can see all the way through it. Kind of like all these trees have been limbed and managed. All the big green briars have been pulled down on the ground. The deer now munch on them. They don't exist much anymore. Now we're looking back towards Sunset Rock, sunset. So again, we're looking back towards Sunset Rock. You can look through this forest, you can see that that tree in front of me is all limbed. Not all the trees, but just where the green briars are hard. Now we're on the trail that I built. It comes up through here. There's a stone wall. I moved all these stones out. And now, right here, I got my finger trapped in there. I don't know, Easter 4 years ago. It caused me to have my finger all blow up and be almost unusable. That rock there. And it changed my life forever, actually. So again, we're kind of looking back through towards Sunset Rock. You can kind of see the forest here. This is all something that I've managed over the years to go through and trim out and get rid of the oriented bittersweet and all the green briars down. And if you kind of look, as you pan over here, you can see this part of the forest. And that's where I haven't been. So again, we're looking back to the forest that's been untouched by me. I've kind of gone in there and done a couple trees at this point, but basically has not been managed. You can kind of see that. You kind of come through, the briars are still all hanging from them trees and stuff. Although only recently, that's the main trail. You can't really see it there, but I built this little side trail over the winter that I'm standing on now to alleviate the people slipping on the steep part over there, which I'll show you in a second. So again, we're looking back towards Sunset Rock. You can kind of see the main trail kind of running up here. I get it into the shadows, you can kind of see it. But the water kind of runs down this and erodes quite a bit. So over the winter, I built this little bypass. It runs up and around. And there's a little sign up ahead for downhill bikers to take the detour. Use it well. And here's another stone wall that I removed to make the trail here. One of 3. So again, we're looking back towards Sunset Rock. And here's the trail that I built. Well, it's kind of here before I got here. But right here was, this trail came down, all the water came down. So this is all muddy, all mud. And there was like stepping stones to go across it. And the trail kind of went up that way. But I built that bypass to go up and around the steep part that I haven't shown you. But I put a little culvert in here, keeps the water down. I built this whole area up here, mined some dirt from the pit over there. So now it doesn't get muddy at all. You can kind of see up there is what we call Motorcycle Hill. And that's all been worked over the years. You can see these 2 pine trees right here. When I first came here, these are totally covered in oriental bittersweet all the way up. They were getting choked out. You can kind of see all the oriental bittersweet that's falling down on the ground. So again, we're looking back towards Sunset Rock. We'll turn to the right. Right there was a campsite some Boy Scout built about 20 years ago, and he cleared down all the Oriental bittersweet in this area here and really changed it. And over there's what we call 420 rock. As you come around, there's a big rock here. That rock you could not climb on because of the briars. And all those trees out there are all covered in Oriental bittersweet. They've all been trimmed back. Same thing with this huge pine tree here. It was covered right in front of me. I won't go up to it. You can kind of see all the way through. If you look close, you'll see Oriental bittersweet as we come back around to pointing back towards Sunset Rock. So this whole forest here has been managed or trimmed back, right back to about that line. That's all natural. And now we're kind of looking back towards Sunset Rock. And there's a camera up in the tree there. Interesting. And this is the reservoir. We're at what I call Beachwood Point. It's hard to see. In fact, this way here is a spillway and then the dam starting to run out of battery power. So that's Beachwood Point again. And behind that would be Sunset Rock. Get a good view of the reservoir. I'm standing on the spillway, the emergency spillway. I'm gonna come around. This Ellie dog. That view was pretty high. Down here's a little canyon for the spillway. And up there in the mix back here is a bunch of little cedar groves that were all covered. We're into bittersweet and stuff, and gone through that whole space and cleared it back quite a bit. And I've got a rock behind that. Again, you couldn't walk on it. Now I see kids playing on it all the time. Back around the forest, around again. Coming right back to Beachwood Point. This is a pretty good shot of the emergency spillway for the dam. Kind of come around. In the background, you'll see the dock that the state put in.